Two things are true of all immoral actions. Oh, yeah, what are those two things that are true of all immoral actions? One, if they're performed in public, they offend public sensibilities. All right, what immoral action are we talking about? Burning the flag. I don't personally think that burning the flag is necessarily an immoral action. I'm not going to judge anybody else's morals. Some of you might think that it's totally immoral to burn a flag. That's fine too. But let's say burning a flag is the supposed immoral action that we're talking about here. The rules about immoral actions are if you do it in public, you're going to offend public sensibilities. And so I would then be willing to say that if burning a flag is indeed a moral action, which for purposes of argumentation, let's say it is. If it is, then if you do it in public, according to that first rule, you will definitely offend public sensibilities. Second, they're accompanied by feelings of guilt. Okay, so then if burning a flag is an immoral action, when you do it, you always have feelings of guilt, even if you do it in private. If you do it in public, you for sure offended public sensibilities. So now let me think through those rules. Let's say that you did an action and you didn't feel guilt. Well, then I would know for sure that it was not an immoral action, according to these rules. Let's say you did an action and it didn't offend public sensibilities. Well, maybe it's not an immoral action. Or maybe it is an immoral action, but you didn't do it in public. See how those two different rules operate slightly differently? You're always going to feel guilt when you do immoral actions. But you're only going to offend public sensibilities necessarily if you do it in public. If you didn't do it in public, then maybe you did, maybe you didn't offend public sensibilities when you did that immoral action. Okay, I think I understand the rules. I like to just sort of play with the rules, think it through forward and backward, think through what these rules would mean. Now, if all the statements above are true, which one of the following must be false? Okay, so one of these is proven false by those facts. We put must be false in the same category as must be true because all you're doing is looking for the one that you can prove on a must be true. And on a must be false, you're looking for the one that you can prove false. So it's really no different. It's just like, okay, the facts prove one of these, that's a must be true. The facts prove one of these false, that's a must be false, but it's the same thing as a must be true. A, can I prove that this is false based on this record? Some immoral actions that are not performed in public are not accompanied by feelings of guilt. That's the answer. That must be false. All immoral actions are accompanied by feelings of guilt. I don't care whether you did them in public or not. So it can't possibly be true that there are some immoral actions performed in private that are not accompanied by feelings of guilt. That's just not what the rules said. The rule said if you do it, period, it's accompanied by a feeling of guilt. So the public thing is not relevant to the guilt thing. The first rule and the second rule are separate rules. You will always feel guilt. You may or may not offend public sensibilities. It depends on whether you did it in public. Answer is A. That must be false. It's just the second rule that makes A 100% must be false. B. Immoral actions are wrong solely by virtue of being accompanied by feelings of guilt. No, they could be wrong because Jesus said they were wrong. They could be wrong because your mom said they're wrong. It could be wrong because Flying Spaghetti Monster said it's wrong. I don't know. I have no idea why it's morally wrong in the first place. I just know that if it is morally wrong, you'll always feel guilty. And if you do it in public, you're going to offend public sensibilities. That's the only thing that I know for sure. The LSAT's ultra super literal. So I'm not going to pick an answer that's making shit up. B's making shit up. C, some actions that offend public sensibilities, if they're performed in public, are not accompanied by feelings of guilt. That might be true. All I know about is immoral actions. I don't know about other classes of actions. Maybe there's all kinds of other classes of actions that you could offend public sensibilities but not feel guilty at all about it. Like maybe comedy, maybe telling the truth about how much of a ripoff law school is. Maybe that offends public sensibilities, but I don't feel bad about it at all because it's not immoral, and certainly not in my book, to tell the truth about the law school scam. I only know about immoral actions, whatever those are. D, some actions that are accompanied by feelings of guilt are not immoral. Well, maybe that's true. There could be other actions that cause guilt. Even if they frequently offend public sensibilities, yeah, sure, fine, whatever. There could be all kinds of things that aren't immoral that nonetheless do offend public sensibilities, but and yes or not, who cares? I just don't know. I don't know anything about immoral actions, so I can't pick D. I don't know anything about other actions that aren't immoral. That's what I meant to say. E, every action performed in public that is accompanied by feelings of guilt is immoral. No, there could be all kinds of moral actions that cause you to feel guilty. I just don't know. But if an action is known to be immoral, then it has to cause a feeling of guilt. And that's why A must be false.